down in Texas, we got a little bit of a kerfuffle. Down in Texas, we got a little bit of a kerfuffle, okay? And it's because Democrats are mad that Texas politicians and Republicans are drawing redistricting lines in the state of Texas. And it's gotten so evil that Democrats decided that they are going to flee Texas and they are going to run and stay in Chicago. And J.B. Pritsker actually offered them safe haven. J.B. Pritsker offered them safe haven. They ran to Chicago in order to try to prevent Texas from drawing redistricting lines. And now the House Speaker and Greg Abbott is speaking specifically about issuing warrants for their arrests for these AWOL Democrats. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. This is what's happening.
Redistricting typically happens once every 10 years. Now, House Democrats in Texas say they will do what it takes to see this attempt fail because it was just done back in 2021. By the time Monday's special congressional session began in Texas, dozens of House Democrats were already on the ground in Illinois.
This special session was supposed to be about saving lives after a tragedy. But instead of holding hearings on flood prevention, Greg Abbott and Donald Trump held 8 hearings on redistricting.
If approved, the remap would allow Republicans in Texas to flip up to 5 House seats.
They literally want to take us back by disenfranchising black and brown communities. And we say no. No, we say hell no.
Governor J.B. Pritsker is welcoming the lawmakers with open arms. Meanwhile, in Texas,
members, a quorum is not present.
Democratic lawmakers have also gone to other blue states, including Massachusetts and New York.
We were all there when these maps were passed in 2021. By unanimous votes of the Republicans, they all swore at that time these maps were the most beautiful maps.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott already warned he will try to remove representatives from office if they don't return. And he's even had the Texas Department of Public Safety issue civil arrest warrants. At the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 701 in Warrenville, those Democratic lawmakers were joined by Illinois Representatives Robin Kelly and Raja Krishnamurthy to talk about the widespread political impact they feel this could have.
You can gerrymander the hell out of that map. Guess what? 2 can play that game. Other states will do exactly the same thing and neutralize what you're trying to do in Texas. It's not going to work.
It really is the United States of America, because if they succeed in Texas, they will take this to other states. They will take this to the county court level. They will take this to the commissioners, the school boards.
Meanwhile, political analyst Tom Seraphin notes that Pritsker is putting himself in the national spotlight and says there is an ironic history of gerrymandering right here in Illinois.
They come to Illinois, the most gerrymandered state in the Union. 50 years ago, there were 24 congressmen in Illinois. We had 13 Democrats and 11 Republicans. Today, we have 17, 14 Democrats and 3 Republicans. The state has been gerrymandered to death.
So just how long might Texas Democrats stay in Illinois? Well, this special session isn't set to end until August 19th, so it's possible they wait this out for a couple of weeks.
Let me ask y'all a question before we deep dive into this, because there's multiple different ways that we can slice this, and I do plan on playing y'all multiple different videos so that we can deep dive into it all the way, right? The first thing that I want to ask you guys is, why is J.B. Pritsker inserting himself into Texas politics? Why is J.B. Pritsker inserting himself into Texas politics? Well, I have a theory. And the theory that I have is that I believe that there are a lot of Democrats that's trying to position themselves to ultimately be the face of the party. I think that there is a lot of tests that's happening. Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritsker. I think that there are a lot of Democrats that are actually testing the waters of public reception to ultimately possibly run for president of the United States of America. That's my theory, okay? My theory is that Democrats are actually looking to put themselves in a position, not because they actually care about what is happening in Texas. If you think that I believe that J.B. Pritsker actually cares about what's happening in Texas, you a fool. I don't believe that J.B. Pritsker cares about redistricting in Texas. I believe that J.B. Pritsker has a lot more to worry about with Chicago and the budget of what's happening over in Illinois. All right? That's number one. Number two, the question that I have for my Texans, all right? The question that I have for my Texans is this. What has your local Democrats done for you lately? What has your local Democrats done for you lately in Texas? Because I'm not in Texas. I know what's happening in Michigan. I know why we don't necessarily care for Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I know that she keep on begging for money for roads that don't get fixed here. I know that they keep pushing laws that champion things that don't have nothing to do with actually benefiting Michiganders. I know that we pay an egregious amount of taxes here in Michigan. But in Texas, let me ask you guys a question. What has your local Democrats done for you lately? Because honestly, it seems like Democrats are just busy being social media stars. Every time I hear from them, I don't hear them introducing new legislation. I don't hear them trying to solve for the crime in their communities. I don't see them visible on a local level. I don't see people talking about whether or not they're actually going to do something that's in the benefit of Texans or in whatever respective state. I don't hear nothing about Democrats doing anything anywhere. Eric D says, Anton, the Republicans hold the power in Texas. That's not a fair question. Oh, no, it's a fair question. Because the thing about it is that Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who was a Democrat here in Michigan, and we've recently flipped it red, Republicans have been working vigorously here in Michigan to introduce legislation or to prevent certain things from happening that's not going to be ideal for the citizens. Or even when it was back in the COVID days, they worked feverishly to get the local government back open so that businesses can get back to making money instead of trying to beg for money from the federal government, and that they got the COVID funds. And Republicans were front and center visible. They dealt with a lot of the dam problems. And when I say the dam problems, I'm not cursing here. I'm talking about the dams in Michigan that ultimately was breaking. They dealt with the water issues. They dealt with the road issues. And so there's a lot that Republicans were visible on during the time where Democrats held power both in the national election and as far as the governor of Michigan. They were visible and they did things that actually helped to push the agenda of what was happening or what we think was best for the people in Michigan. At the very least, they were visible. They were visible. So what I'm asking is, what has Democrats done to be visible, introduce new legislation, have certain conversations? What have Democrats done? What have Democrats done inside of Texas to where y'all actually believe that they are working on behalf of the people in the district?
The governor of Texas is not only threatening to arrest the more than 50 Democratic lawmakers who have left Austin, he has ordered the Texas Rangers to investigate whether they got illegal financial support when they left the state. State Attorney General Ken Paxton echoed the governor's threat and said Democrats should, quote, be swiftly arrested, punished, and face the full force of the law. But the Democrats are standing firm, saying leaving the state was the only way to stop Republicans from changing Texas's congressional districts to favor Republicans.
Sometimes the only way to uphold your oath is to refuse to play along with the rigged game.
Each of the Democrats face a $500 fine for every day they miss of the special session. and Abbott wants to know how they paid for their travel out of state.
It would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature.
Democrats left Texas to prevent Republicans from going forward with a vote to approve the new congressional maps.
Members, a quorum is not present.
Republicans need about a dozen Democrats to come back to make quorum and to move forward with a vote on their plan.
Come back and fulfill your duty, because this House will not sit quietly while you obstruct the work of the people.
Republicans voted to issue civil arrest warrants to bring the Democrats back to the Capitol, but those warrants have no power out of state.
It doesn't really matter, because even if you find them $500 a day, that's why they do campaign fundraising. It's going to come out of their campaign funds. It's going to come out of their campaign funds. Everything is going to be paid for and funded by taxpayers. When they jump on these planes, when they go to different places, when they take private flights, when they go and stay in hotels, either it's going to come out of the state that they got offered refuge for, or it's going to come from taxpayer dollars in their campaign funds where people donate to keep them elected. And I'll also tell you that nothing is going to happen to them.
Already, the House Sergeant at Arms is going door to door, taking note of which Democrats weren't at the Capitol on Monday. The new district maps could help Republicans win 5 extra House seats in next year's midterm elections. The move was demanded by President Trump, who is eager to preserve the narrow Republican majority in Congress. The fight in Texas is setting off a national battle over redistricting, with the Democratic governors of California and New York threatening to do what Republicans are doing in Texas.
Fighting, yes, fire with fire.
They're leaving us no choice. We must do the same.
Texas Democrats have tried this move before, back in 2021 and in 2003. In both cases, the standoff went on for weeks, but the Democrats eventually returned to Texas, and the move failed to stop the Republicans. Robin?
So I don't know if it's going to stop them or what, but this is Greg Abbott speaking on the whole situation.
Anyway, here with breaking news, the very latest from Austin is Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, when I looked, I have a whole sheet here of every single Democratic state, and it's just like the examples I put up there. They have gerrymandered their states left, right, sideways. They're saying, well, they're gonna do to their states what you're doing in Texas. They already did it in all of these blue states. Frankly, Republicans should have caught up a long time ago.
Well, Sean, first of all, Texas is doing what we are allowed to by the law. And one reason why that law exists the way that it does is because the Democrats brought a lawsuit after our last redistricting, and that decision and that lawsuit came out last year. And that lawsuit recognized that coalition districts are not required. And so Texas has a right to redraw these lines to fully represent the desires of every voter in the state. But, Sean, that misses the point here. The point here is that Democrats have done something that's very un-Texan. They've turned their backs on their fellow Texans. When it came to a fight, they turned and ran away, not just from this redistricting fight. They ran away from dealing with the flooding issues that are still echoing across the Kerrville area. Families desperately need results from the state legislature in this 30-day special session that are not going to be delivered because Democrats are hanging out in Chicago and New York and other places.
Yeah. All right. Let me run through the states. California, Republicans, 39% of the House vote, but they only have 17% of the seats. Connecticut, Republicans, 40% of the House vote, 0 seats, none, zip. Illinois, 2024, Republicans, they got a pretty respectable 47% of the statewide vote, 18% of House seats. Maryland, one of the bluest states, Trump gets 35%, but they only have 12% of House seats. Massachusetts, again, 0 House seats. Nevada is even worse. Republicans win the state. They won the state House by 10 points, walked away with 1 single House seat in the entire state. That's it. So this has been the practice of these states for the longest period of time. Now they want to attack you. And I'm thinking, OK, what you're doing is exactly what they did.
Well, and not even that, Sean. To be honest, the Texas maps are not going to be as extreme as those other blue states that you talked about. But another thing, and that is what Texas is doing under these new maps. 4 of the 5 new seats will be a majority Hispanic seats. One of the seats is going to restore the Barbara Jordan seat over in the Houston area. And so these are seats where Democrats are having to come to grips with the reality. And that is, they are now losing the votes of Hispanics and black voters in the state of Texas. And these districts are going to show that Hispanics and blacks, as well as others, are voting for Republican, and Republican is their candidate of choice. And we will ensure that will be achieved at the congressional level in the state of Texas.
So let me ask y'all a question. What problem do you guys in the chat, if you have any, not saying that y'all got a problem at all, what problem do you guys have with redistricting lines being drawn? And I understand the whole sentiment of gerrymandering and that people are saying that it could be a manipulation of redrawing lines in order to ensure, political power in certain states and certain houses and all of that stuff. Do you guys have any problem with the constant redrawing of district lines to ensure that an accurate representation of whatever party? So, for example, if they redraw the lines and the Hispanic community are more turning towards voting Republican or Democrat, do you support or do you actually not support the idea of drawing redistricting? And if you do support it, how long do you think that it should be in between times that they draw lines or they do redistricting? That's fair, Slick Boss. That's fair that you need to do more research. I'm rocking with that. What's going on, Jennifer? You from Houston and you have no problem? You dislike it, yet what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I don't have a problem with it. Can't lie. I'm voting Democrats down the line next year. He doing too much useless. It shouldn't be allowed, but Democrats have done this for years. It's all fair game. It's needed until full deterrence from the border. We all fed up. Support every 10 years. Yeah, what I would say is I believe that it should be done probably every, I don't know, 10 years. I think 10 years is too much because the population shift and change probably changes too much in between there. 10 years, that's reasonable. 8 to 10 years, every 8 to 10 years, I think that the redistricting line should be redrawn. I don't think that people should do it just because other people is doing it. I think it needs to be stopped on both sides. It needs to be stopped on the Democrat side. It needs to be stopped on the Republican side. And I think that similarly to how we do the census every whatever so often, right? I believe that is when you start to redraw redistricting lines. 10 years, okay. I don't have too much of a problem. But again, the shift in population can be so vast within 10 years. I think that you would have to do it a lot sooner than that. Maybe every 6 years or so. The lines don't affect how we as voters feel about our representatives. Yeah, but it affects how many seats you get. It affects how many seats you get, and when you don't control all three branches of government, it makes it difficult to get anything passed. So Texas population is changing fast. Every 4 years, but elections, swing states every 4 years. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how often it should be drawn, but what I support is that it should be set in stone. I think that a bigger problem is that we don't have we really do need to get term limits for Congress. We really need to get term limits for Congress. If there's anything that I think that we should actually be working towards and focusing on, which we all know that it'll never happen, I believe that we need to get term limits. If there's nothing else that we need to do, is that we need to get term limits for Congress. Honest to God. We really do need to get term limits for Congress. I don't even care about the redistricting as much as I care about term limits for Congress. I think that will solve a lot of problems.